Welcome to another episode of Maritime Conversations. We are at the start of the year 2025. So, our first episode. Happy New Year to everyone watching us and listening. I'm Swaroop Anand. I am, of course, joined by Commodore Srikant Kesnur. How are you, Commodore?
Wonderful, Swaroop. Great to be with you again on Maritime Conversations. And yes, wishing all our viewers and listeners a very happy new year, wishing them a splendid 2025.
Lovely. Commodore, the reason we are having a conversation today is because 15th January is a big day. We're commissioning three ships, the INS Surat, INS Nilgiri, and INS Vagsheer. Um, Tell us about the significance of this. It's a big event. The Navy is going to pull out all the stops to make it a splendid evening. Take us through the, through the ceremony, to take us through the whole, event.
Yes, absolutely. You put it right. This is triple bonanza, as I can call it.
Right.
It is huge. It is historic, of course, and it is historic with great historical significance, past and present. So it's huge in several ways, and I'm going to use this word frequently today.
Yeah.
But some of the things, of course, one is that this adds hugely to our force levels.
Right.
When you talk of strength accretions,
Hmm.
guided missile destroyers, which is the Surat, guided missile frigate, which is the Nilgiri, and submarine Vagsheer. I think these are in some ways, they add to a country's naval capability. The destroyers and frigates are called as principal surface combatants. They're not small ships, they are
Right.
huge. They are on the front line of fleet operations. And
Right.
then the submarine, of course, is meant for certain unique purposes. So all three add hugely to Navy's strength and to its combat capabilities. The second and important thing to remember is this is a splendid demonstration of indigenization, of self reliance, of
Right.
Atmanirbharta.
That's right.
Remember, all three have been built in Mazagon Dock, our principal shipbuilder. Two of them, Surat and Nilgiri, have been designed by the Navy's Design Bureau. And while the Vagsheer has been built on the design of the Scorpion class, the indigenous content is keeping on increasing. So you got this fantastic, let's say, demonstration of our shipbuilding, warship building capabilities. Third is all three have a certain historical significance
Right.
owing to their predecessors or in some cases India's maritime history. And we'll talk about that separately. Another important thing I want to bring out is that many times when we talk of missiles and sensors and guns, we don't pay attention to the integration aspects. The combat management, the platform or the system for combat management, which has been indigenously designed, which integrates all the sensors, weapons, and the fleet. So these
Right.
are remarkably modern, and they give or they enable three things. They enable far better situational awareness or maritime domain awareness than before. Second, they are far more, they make network centric capability far more possible today amongst these ships than ever before. And thirdly, they make it possible for what is called cooperative engagement capabilities, amongst, I'm talking of Surat and Nilgiri,
Right.
you can demonstrate the use of weapon from one platform using sensor inputs from another. So you are talking of CEC. So I think this is state of the art. This is fantastic technology. This is indigenous shipbuilding. This adds to the Navy's force levels, and there are
Right.
three of them. So
Right.
fantastic landmark occasion for the Navy.
Definitely. I think I'd want to unpack each of these units. So let's start off with INS Surat, right? Um, the pictures. I think we've seen the crest, which was unveiled sometime late last year. Tell us what kind of awesome beast it is. So this is part of the Project 15 Bravo, And this itself has a long history. We had the
Yeah.
project 15 Alpha, we had the project 15, the Delhi class, the Kolkata, and now the Vishakhapatnam class. So about INS Surat, about project 15 and the progression of that, I think it'll be a lovely way to start.
Yes, of course. One is like you mentioned, these are follow on, and Surat is the last one, the 10th
Right,
one
the
of
fourth, yeah.
what we can describe as Project 15 that
Hmm.
started with the Delhi class in the late
Right,
90s. Delhi was commissioned in 1997.
right,
And then you have the 15 Alpha, the Calcutta class, and the 15 Bravo, four of the Vishakhapatnam class, which
right,
ends with Surat. So this is 10 awesome ships, 10 frontline destroyers, which form the core of Navy's fleet strength. Now, you must understand what destroyers bring to the table. They are capable of being part of a carrier task force. They also can act independently as a search and attack unit, as an anti-submarine unit, as surface action group. So basically, destroyers bring in speed, they bring in power, they bring in three-dimensional or multi-dimensional capabilities. They have missiles, they have helicopters, they have torpedoes, so they have great sensors. So their destroyers are the numero uno of the fleet. They are the glamour girls, and yet at the same time they do a huge amount of work. They're very, very sleek and impressive in their looks. So obviously they rank high up there. But again, if we go to the specifics, highest indigenous content. I mean, BrahMos missiles, MR SAM, surface to air missile, BrahMos surface to surface supersonic missiles. Then they have guns, they have close in weapon systems, they have torpedoes, Varunastra, indigenous torpedoes, okay,
right,
decoys, sensors, long range radar, medium range radar, electronic warfare systems, combined electronic warfare systems. Again, electronic warfare is totally indigenous, capable of taking two helicopters, either the Sea Kings or MH-60s, and at 7,500 tons. They're
right.
heavy, you know. So the
Yeah,
motto of Surat is Sagare Prachand,
yeah,
it is invincible at sea or formidable at sea, and which is what they are.
right.
So this makes Surat, and as a segue from the earlier ones,
Hmm.
as very, very super capable frontline fleet unit. We
Right,
must also remember one more very, very important thing about Surat. She has the least time between her launch and commissioning.
that's
That
right.
has come down to 31 months.
Hmm.
The MDL has been delivering one of these each year, but 31 months between launch and commissioning is capable international standards. In fact,
Right,
better than some international standards. And this was one criticism against the Navy and the shipbuilders. There were various reasons for it, that the time between launch or time between keel laying and handover is too long. But I think we have now aced that also, and that is remarkable about Surat. So obviously, we're talking about a ship that is going to reign in the seas and oceans, protecting India's interests over the next 3 decades or so.
absolutely. Let's now, I think about Surat. She was launched in May of 2022, and
Yes.
and she's going to get commissioned in January. So
So that's
that's,
what, 30,
yeah,
31 months. Yeah.
that's right. So
And she
less
was
than,
delivered in December, remember, so.
correct. That's true. That's true. Super. So now let's go on to the next big one, the Nilgiris. So we INS Nilgiri. We've already had a conversation of the old INS Nilgiri about what she meant for for India, for shipbuilding, for the Navy. Now we have the Project 17 frigate. INS Nilgiri. Talk to us about, of course, INS Nilgiri, the new one, but it is in a way the start of a new era, no, Commodore?
Absolutely, it's the start of a new era, just as the old Nilgiri was the start of a certain era. The
Right,
old Nilgiri was commissioned, in 72, just after the famous victory in the 71 war. After India had, we were about 25 years then. Uh, this new Nilgiri is when India is an emerging power. It is a player on the global theater. The Navy's blue water capabilities have been taken note of. India is, the preferred security partner and, first responder in the region. So this new Nilgiri carries the soul of the old one. And remember the old Nilgiri class. It was a class of 6 ships. They
Right.
were our first indigenous warship building program. It they gave us lots of reasons to be very proud about, and the new Nilgiri carries the same traditions, the same soul. And you have 7 here, 4 being built by Mazagon and 3 by GRSE. So there is
Right.
Mahendragiri added. So again, what are their plus points in addition to this very very significant naval history? One, of course, Nilgiri is the first of the class. So you have this fantastic thing where Surat, the last of the class, and
Right.
Nilgiri, the first of the class, in a way, the destroyer program finishing, reaching a culmination, and the frigate program starting. Again,
Right.
the Nilgiris are going to be frontline combatants. They're going to be principal surface combatants. And
Right.
it's these are new generation frigates. I mean, the old Nilgiris were about 2,500 tons, Vindhyagiri or something, or 2,800, 900. These are 6,500 tons. I mean,
Right.
this is a completely different beast altogether.
That's right.
Again, excellent sensor, weapon mix, the BrahMos,
MR Sam.
torpedoes, guns, and all that, with very, very elegant looks. An important point here we must not forget, these are stealth platforms.
Mm.
There is a lot more that has gone in terms of stealth, and that way they are a step ahead of the Shivalik class, which we advertised as our
Correct.
first stealth frigates. So the
Right.
Nilgiris incorporate a lot more, whether it is in terms of radar absorbent material, whether it's infrared suppression, whether it
Mm.
is kind of flush decks and not having too many things, peeping out. So a
Mm.
whole lot of construction and technology features make the Nilgiri class stealth frigates.
Right.
Difficult to detect at sea. So it's interesting that the motto of Nilgiri is
Mm.
Adrushya Balam and Ajay Shaurya. Unconquerable courage and invisible strength. So
Right.
that I think illustrates the stealth features very very well. So
Right.
another winner on our hands with the Nilgiri, and the best part is there are 6 more to come.
Super. So I think like we had the Project 15, the Project 15 Alpha, and the 15 Bravo. This we have had Project 17, which was the Shivalik class, and now the Project 17 Alpha, which is the Nilgiri class. I'm sure there is a Project 17 Bravo, following in its wake. And hopefully we'll be, having a maritime conversation about, the when she gets launched or those ships get
Cars.
launched. um, the third one, this, the silent, the silent killer, right? The sixth,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
submarine of the Kalvari class. We have had the three Ks, and then the three Vs, Vagsheer being the third, of the Vs. Talk to us about Vagsheer. What does she mean for the Navy? How is she going to augment our the silent arm of the Navy?
Yes, I think we must mention submarine Vagsheer too, because submariners and submarines being silent, we
Yeah,
don't talk much about them,
that's
and
right.
rightly so.
Right.
But I think we must make a mention of Vagsheer. Again, the last of the class, the Kalvari class. Now, please remember that when in 1968 we commissioned, the Kalvari class, that is when the Navy became a submarine force and we became a truly three-dimensional force then,
That's right. Yeah.
and so we are aware of that history, 67, 68. So from then onwards the Navy submariners of course have rendered yeoman service, uh, and now we are taking to building submarines in India.
Right.
So these Vakshier are designed to the Scorpion design, built by
Correct.
the naval systems of France. But
Yeah.
as I pointed out, there is more and more indigenous content. The building is being done here in Mazagon Dock. The crew confidence in a lot of issues is happening continuously. Now, what are the other issues here? One is that it adds to our submarine strength. Of late, our submarine strength or levels have given rise to some worry, dwindling strength. So this, I think, adds. It has come at a very, very good juncture. And the Scorpions, the Kalvari class, have again super fantastic weapons and sensors. I mean, there are wire-guided torpedoes, there are anti-ship missiles, there are the best sensors that you can think about. And more importantly, these are ultra quiet. These are
Hmm.
ultra quiet. And
Right.
therefore, I think they'll have a huge role to play in sea denial and surveillance and intelligence gathering and all that. You must also remember that this, in a sense, now with they also have provisions for fitment of a AIP plug. Uh,
Hmm.
and recently there has been a contract where the government has approved, AIP plug fitment retrospectively on submarines. So
Right.
along with building ballistic missile submarine, giving approval for nuclear attack submarines, and having a good strength of conventional submarine, I think the three-pronged submarine growth that was needed. I mean,
Hmm.
we're still a long way off from reaching perfection there, or not, if not perfection, reaching optimal levels.
Right.
But I think Vagsheer fills a very, very important gap in the interim. Having six of these ultra modern Scorpion class patrol our waters or other waters of interest gives a lot of reassurance to our security planners.
Right. And I think, the fact that there are three ships being commissioned on the same day, there's a lot of historical significance here. You are a maritime and naval historian. I'm sure, there'll be a lot of nuggets. There will be a lot of threads, in this whole commissioning ceremony that you'd be really interested and, quite excited about, if I may.
Yes.
Tell us about the historical significance. Nilgiri and Vagsheer are, of course, the second avatars. Surat is the first, but Surat is named after a maritime hub. Surat itself, the place has a great history, maritime history. So, tell us about the historical significance of all of these three ships' names commissioning. Yeah.
So there is both a personal historical significance for me, and I must share it because
Right.
of the delight that this occasion brings.
Yeah.
And then there is, of course, the larger historical significance, and I could go on and on about that. So I'll save it after I finish the personal. Now, the personal significance is like this,
Right.
with the Nilgiri class. Of course, I'm not a submariner, so I can't talk too much about Vaksheer except to say that I've had great friends in the submarine fraternity. But to come back to the other two ships,
Right.
Nilgiri is a program with which my father-in-law was associated.
Oh, lovely.
He joined the Navy as a sailor,
Correct.
and he moved rapidly to become an electrical apprentice, and then moved on to Mazagon as an officer for the Nilgiri project. So
Right.
he went to UK for training in the late 60s, and he was
Right.
deeply, deeply involved with all of them from Nilgiri until Vindhyagiri. Of course,
So
subsequently,
it's
of
a
course,
good family occasion, Commodore.
it is an excellent family occasion. I mean, he's 87, 88. Unfortunately, he's sort of homebound now, but he was
Right.
so thrilled to hear about this, and he was recollecting his days because he was also associated with the Godavari class subsequently
That's
and the
right.
initial aspect of the Delhi class.
Right.
So the six Nilgiris are very, very dear to him because that's when he made a move from Navy to Mazdok, and he retired as a chief manager. Mazdok has very happy memories for him. Importantly for me too, I commanded the Vindhyagiri,
Correct.
my first command, my lovely command, and that was the last of the Leanders. So
Right.
again, I have some wonderful memories of Vindhyagiri. Similarly, with the Delhi class, as you are aware, I was the
Correct.
commissioning SCO of Delhi, the first
Right.
of the Project 15. And
That's right.
thereafter, I've been involved with them in a lot of ways. I did the book on INS Mumbai. I was involved in some ways in the book for Mysore. Attended the commissioning of Chennai,
Right.
attended the commissioning of Vishakhapatnam and Marmugao. Was involved in writing about Marmugao and Vishakhapatnam. So there are these so many as far as the Project 15s are concerned. There's such
That's right.
a deep link and the association goes on and on, particularly because the Delhi commissioning crew is still in touch. So I think there is huge amount of personal, historical connections which are thrilling enough. But now let's go to the bigger thing because I believe Navy is making a historic statement here too.
Right.
Okay. If you see, of course, like we said, in case of Nilgiri, uh, it is named after the Nilgiri Hills, very obviously, and it is a take carry on of the earlier avatar. So that is ensconced within naval history. As far as Surat is concerned, now we are talking of India's maritime history and maritime
Right.
past. And Surat is a town with such splendid history. I mean, it began its journey before the Common Era or the Christian era. Some people say in the third century BCE, but it gains prominence in medieval era, and then it becomes a very important maritime hub on India's west coast, which is trading with Persia, which is trading
That's
with
right.
Arab nations, and all these places. I mean, it is an important port. It is a sort of
Right.
it's like an emporium on the west. And then during the Mughal times, it becomes an important port. The Mughals do their Hajj pilgrims Hajj yatras
Right.
from there. Surat becomes a shipbuilding center. And now, you know, in Surat come the Britishers. The Portuguese, of course, have cast their eyes on it.
Right.
The Britishers come in September 1612. In fact, even before that, their first ship Hector comes, to Surat and they seek a license for trading.
Great.
But
Yeah.
in September 1612, a squadron of four ships comes 5th September 1612 off Surat. And interestingly, that is the date the British feel is the start date of Indian Navy's journey.
That is
I mean, that
right.
is when the Marine is established, and
Right.
and they believe that is the start point of Indian Navy's journey. So
Yeah.
1612, Surat, the Britishers come, and then of course over a period of time, they expand and they establish, they defeat the Portuguese in a battle in October, and thereafter they take strong control. So that becomes now a British stronghold. Subsequently, the Portuguese again, the Dutch come in later. Now, in all of this, remember Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, he attacks and ransacks Surat from land in 1664, I think, and again in 1670. So
Right.
Surat is this great hub that attracts, that is with Mughals, that the British have, a foothold in, that later after the Mughals, the Siddhis have it for some time. The
Right.
Portuguese have some interest. It attracts people from all over the world. The Marathas are interested because of the wealth there. So it is this great, as I said, an emporium, a maritime port of great interest. Then
Right.
what happens after Bombay is handed over to the British?
I think, yeah.
And subsequently, it is handed over to East India Company in
That's right.
1660. So 1668, East India Company comes, and please remember, East India Company is headquartered in Surat.
That's right.
So their decision to move to Bombay in 1668, and then actually the Marines follow almost 2 decades later, I think in 1686. That is when Surat starts diminishing in importance and Bombay starts
Bombay.
gaining importance. It is
Right.
because, so if you in some ways credit modern Bombay's growth to the East India coming company coming here.
Right.
Remember, they came here shifting from Surat,
Surat.
you know.
Right. Right.
So, in some ways, the decline of Surat owed to the rise of Mumbai, and this is best illustrated by the famous, Wadia shipbuilders.
Correct. Correct.
So the British start a shipbuilding, yard in 1635 in Surat. Then
Surat.
1 century later, in 1735, after they've shifted to Bombay,
Yeah.
they call in the Wadia shipbuilders, Lovji Nasrvanji Wadia, and then you
Yeah.
have this entire family of shipbuilders. And where do they establish? They establish the Bombay dock in the area that is today's Naval Dockyard and Mazagon Dock. So
Right.
look at this fantastic, in some ways, the coming of history in
That's
wheels.
right. Right.
So in that area where the dock was set up by the Wadias, today the Mazagon dock is building a ship called Surat,
Right.
indigenously built, Indian this one, and that will, be at least based in the naval dockyard in Mumbai, or commissioned in naval dockyard Mumbai.
Right.
So you're talking of history coming, and there couldn't have been a better gift to the
Right.
Wadia shipbuilder, a better tribute to the great Wadia shipbuilders than this. And of course, there is this close linkages with Gujarat also. We must not forget. People, don't really notice, but it's Gujarat that has amongst the states the longest coastline in India.
That's right.
More than 2,000 kilometers. It's Gujarat. So
Right.
to have for the Navy to name a town called, name one of its frontline ships after Surat, which is a very predominant maritime port, and which is sort of joined at the hip with Mumbai,
Right. Right.
or Bombay.
Right.
I think the commissioning of Surat in Mumbai is a new chapter of history that's being written by the Navy.
Right. Very well put. I think the whole the picture that you kind of painted from the 17th century till to the 21st, I think was it was just brilliant, Commodore. Thank you so much for that. Vagsheer, Nilgiri, and Surat getting commissioned on the 15th. It's going to be a really important day, like you said about the force levels of the Navy, increasing by many fold. Um, I think it's also important. Of course, you've spoken about Mazagon Dock. You've spoken about the design bureau a little bit, but let's talk a little bit about the overseers. They are, I think it's quite a thankless job, that of an overseer. Tell us who are overseers, and what is the what is the contribution of an overseer or the overseeing team, of course, in the commissioning of vessels.
I'm so glad you brought this out, Swaroop, because these are usually the unsung people when any ship is commissioned. So of course, the designers deserve kudos for designing such magnificent ships, and of course the builders, in this case, the Naval Design Bureau and the Moscow Dock,
Right.
deserve kudos. The commissioning crew is always special. It
Yeah.
sets standards. It puts the ship through the paces. It's a specially chosen crew, so a lot of credit goes to the commissioning crew too. They start getting a sort of stakeholdership in the project.
Right.
But we all forget the overseers. Now, who are the overseers? Overseers are those, as you'd say, they oversee the project. They
Hmm.
ensure that the ship is being built to the specifications that the designer has put in. So the overseers are co-located with the builders. The
Ah.
overseers are, therefore, in this case, in Mazagon Dock.
Mm-hmm.
But the overseeing organization consists of, again, excellent, outstanding professional naval officers who spend time on ships, who they are naval professionals, uniformed naval professionals. So they know what is the requirement of ships, they know what's the requirements of sea, and at the same time, they act as a conversational bridge between the builder, between the designer, and between the ship's crew. So they have a very thankless job because they have to satisfy everyone. There is no dearth to the number of good ideas you can have. There's no dearth to how you can keep wanting to improve. Yet you got to have a cutoff date. And I
Right.
think the kind of, if today you have reduced the timing between launch and delivery, and a whole lot of other things, I think it owes a lot to the warship overseeing team, led by the Warship Production Superintendent, as is called, WPS. So I
Mm-hmm.
think we must recognize the silent role that they play, without taking away anything from the Navy, from the Naval Headquarters, from our design bureau, from the various directorates, and of course the Western Command, which facilitates this thing, and the ship's crew overall, which takes ownership of the vessel.
Right. Lovely. So here's to the the designers, the builders, um, the overseers, and the commissioning crew of all of these three vessels. 15th January is going to be very special for all of them. Anybody connected with these three ships. Thank you so much, Commodore, for
Thank,
joining.
No, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Swaroop. Like you said, it's going to be special, but I believe it must be special. It is special to the Navy.
Right.
It is special to the shipbuilder, but I think it is also, or it must also be special to the nation.
Right.
Just as we celebrate the launch of a satellite, just as we celebrate, great sporting achievements, I think having three ships built in India, most powerful, most sleek, state of the art, avant garde. I
Right.
think this is making a statement. The Indian Navy is making a statement. The countrymen should be proud. The country people should be proud. All Indians should be proud. And I would say this is the uh, Navy's Republic Day gift to the nation.
Well said, Gaurav. On that note, I think we'll end the episode. Thank you so much for joining us. Let us know in the comments if there are other things, any other topics that you'd want us to talk about. Thanks so much. Bye bye.